Okay, we are ready to talk a little college hoops, a little more thoroughly. Maybe ninth grade, maybe eighth grade. Probably make that sound a little bit better than it did. That didn't sound good.
No.
But it's actually true.
Is your dad's coming to studio?
He knew. He knew. I mean, it's a strange culture back then in Brooklyn. You know, like as long as you're not doing drugs and as long as you're not driving, it was kind of socially accepted. Less in my house, to be fair, than most other homes. But anyway, PJ Carlesimo is with us. Now, PJ, just a basketball lifer. An amazing run at Seton Hall. Got to the title game. Westwood 1 sports analyst now. Head coaching, assistant positions in between. You see him on TV. PJ, Tiki and Tierney, how are you, buddy?
Excellent, gentlemen. How you guys doing?
We're doing well. You got to solve something for us here. And maybe just because I was kind of young when it went down. I always thought that Andrew Gaze was like 28 or 29 when he played for you. But Wikipedia it's saying that he was like 24. How old was he when he was at Seton Hall?
23, turning 24.
That's
if I'm
it,
not mistaken. He might have even turned that year. We were actually hoping for him to come and play another year. And the truth is we did too well, and he ended up going back to Australia. And, I mean, he was already the best player in Australia, but it kind of took him the coverage of they did the Final Four game live back there, and it just took him to a whole nother level. And we had actually hoped to do an appeal and get another year out of him, but it didn't work out. But it's funny. I did 2 interviews last week. I was in Tulsa for the first rounds of the NCAA and did 2. One from Australia and another one from Deadspin on Andrew. So I don't know what's got everybody talking about it, but that's what we were doing.
Probably because
Brooklyn? We can talk Brooklyn now or no?
Yeah. Well, hey, listen. On this show, we talk about whatever we got to talk about, PJ, to make 3 hours go by.
Yeah, right.
Make sure we had a job tomorrow.
Drinking beers in 8th grade. I mean, that's what
PJ knows what I'm talking about. 8th grade's a little young, and I don't condone it. But PJ, you know where I'm coming from, right?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I was more Bronx early, but I got one really good year when we moved over into Barclays when the Nets moved there the first year, and really enjoyed it.
Yeah, he gets it. All right, so you are in Memphis, I believe, right?
Correct.
Okay, so start with the 4 game. We'll kind of hit everything kind of quickly here. Give us a nice overview. But, I mean, whether it's the Michigan story, can they continue? Whether it's Gonzaga trying to really break through for the first time, whether it's Kansas and Bill Self losing a couple of times as a 1 seed, or really, to me, PJ, the biggest storyline with Sean Miller in Arizona. I mean, the Final Four's in Glendale. They're supposed to beat Xavier, who, with all due respect, I mean, they're good, but they're supposed to beat him pretty handily tonight. I think there's incredible pressure on Sean Miller. But what do you think is the biggest storyline tonight? What are you most intrigued with?
Well, I think the West, again, I live in Seattle. I've lived in Seattle for 10 years since I was with the Sonics out there. So
great city.
You've got the double story out there. You got Gonzaga, who has not been in the Final Four. Mark Few, arguably his best team. I'm not sure it is, but certainly record-wide it is to this point. He's got to get by Bobby Huggins' West Virginia team, which will be interesting. He's got a veteran backcourt. I think it's doable. And then you said Sean, you got the dynamic of them playing Xavier, although he's already done that once. Xavier's overachieved. I mean, it's an 11, but at this stage, the numbers are meaningless. Like if Xavier played Arizona in the regular season, people would call it a good game. Now you start saying, well, it's a 2 versus an 11. It's 2 really good teams. Anybody that's alive can win the first game, can win in the round of 16. I don't think anybody can win 4. That's the challenge of the tournament. You got to win 6 times. But at this stage, these guys are all good enough to beat each other. So to me, there's no mega upset. How did this team beat that team going forward? Sean and Fewy trying to get to a Final Four for the first time. I had the Pac-12 tournament 2 weeks ago. Arizona's playing very, very well. What concerns me a little bit about Arizona is the youth. They're very young. And I'll get to that when we talk about our region even more so. And it's hard to win with young guys in the tournament. Now, Cal is a different animal. What Kentucky has done is incredible. But generally speaking, I go to the veteran teams.
So to PJ Carlesimo with us here. Obviously, Sweet 16 starts tonight. Tiki and Tierney show.
Yeah, PJ, before we go to your region, which those games are tomorrow night, Michigan and Oregon is obviously unique because of what Michigan has done. And I don't think anybody expected them to carry this energy as far as they have, but it's persisted. Can Oregon shut this down for them, or shut this down, I guess, in the mind of what's supposed to happen? Because Michigan's not supposed to have gone this far, not only in the Big Ten tournament, but obviously to the Sweet 16 in the dance.
Well, they're on a roll, Teak, which obviously, it's a good time. You've been in those situations in the playoffs. A team gets, you have to be good to begin with, and they're certainly that. Johnny Beeline's been there before. I like them a lot. I'm not good at picking. I truly am not. I liked Villanova and Oregon early, which shows you what I know. Now, again, I mentioned I was in the Pac-12 when Boucher got hurt. That hurts them. He's not a star. He's the sixth starter. He was coming off the bench. He really changes their defense. He's such a good shot blocker. That was a hit to lose him. Having said that, they're one of those veteran teams, so I'm not going to be surprised. Dana Altman's group is very, very good. The three teams out of the Pac-12 in different ways are all really, really good. So I think that's maybe one of the best games in fact, that region, I like the South and the Midwest from day one. I thought they were the two best regions. Kansas-Purdue is a heavyweight matchup, and I think Oregon-Michigan is also, even though a lot of people would say they're surprised Michigan is there.
Go back to I think this applies, and I think you're right, with Xavier versus
Arizona.
Versus Arizona here. I also kind of sense the same thing with Butler in North Carolina. And I know Butler had an injury, and I'm not overly enamored with them, but boy, I love their coach, and their pedigree is pretty good. But I feel like Butler, I did not think they would still be standing at this point. I don't think they've got it to really even garner, remotely garner an upset. Am I wrong, though? Am I just not giving the Bulldogs?
I think they have the tough matchup. Carolina is just so big and so good on the boards. But having said that, Butler has the experience. Travis makes a big difference. They're essentially a veteran team, although Baldwin's played really, really well for a freshman. The thing that amazes me when I'm looking at all the stats in front of me, trying to get organized to go over to the practices, they've played the most NCAA, the field. They've had 21 games. They're 25-8. 21 of those games were against the field, somebody in the NCAA tournament, and they're 16-5. Carolina, for instance, has played 17 teams in the field. They're 12-5. So, Butler has been tested. They beat Villanova twice. You look at it, it's one of those cliches that it's a better team. It's better than the individual. The pieces fit together really well. Chris has done an unbelievable job. Holtman, just saw him, actually. He happens to be staying in our hotel. They're good. I'm really, if they can hang on the boards, and I don't know that anybody can hang on the boards with Carolina, but that's especially going to be a challenge for them. But if they can control tempo and hang on the boards, yes, I do think they can win because they're a legit four. I think they were the first four. I think they were actually seeded, when they do that S-curve.
Sure.
I think they were actually seeded 13. And when you look at who they've played and what they've done all year, they are legit. That's why this region is incredible. The two games we have here are amazing.
Staying in the South, UCLA and Kentucky, you talk about you don't like youth in the NCAA tournament. Both of these teams are full of youth. You know what I mean?
Michigan State's the only other one we could have brought in. I happened to be with them in Tulsa last week. I think they started 3 freshmen, and 2 of them were monsters.
Yeah,
Bridges and Mack. And they're really, really good.
Now
these guys are to the extreme. Cal's always going to have 9 or 10. It seems all freshmen on his team, and yet they win. They win the conference. They're the conference champs. UCLA is really good, and they're 2 freshmen, T.J. Leaf, and everybody talks about Lonzo Ball, and rightly so. What they have, though, which is really good, they've got they have some experience to go with it. Bryce Alford and Isaac Hamilton have been playing forever right there, and Thomas Welch has been around, so they're good. But those 2 teams, it's going to be a shootout.
Yeah.
They already played in the regular season. It was like 97-92. You got a ton of offense in that game. Carolina's a big offensive team too. Butler can certainly score, but I think they're going to try and control it a little more. But this is the young gun shootout, so the experience is not a major factor right there. If it is, slight edge to UCLA. They've beaten them twice. The last 2 times they've played, once in Pauley, once in Rupp. So it's not easy to beat a team where you're comparable 3 times in a row, even though it's over 3 years. But again, they're youngsters. I always have the sense that people in the East don't see the Pac-12, obviously because of the time difference. The 3 Pac-12 teams, if you get a chance to watch them, you watch Arizona, you watch Oregon, and you watch UCLA, they're very different. they're all very, very good. That league was really top-heavy, and then
Yeah.
Southern Cal goes into the tournament and does a great job. But the league is really good at the top. Then there was a big drop-off.
You know, Coach, I'm going to pull on your expertise as a coach here. How does Cal do this with these young players? And I had this conversation with BT a couple of days ago. We had him on, whatever it was, 2 months ago. He said, look, my job isn't to get these kids to graduate from school. If they want to, their scholarship is here for whenever they come back. But it's to prepare them for their next stage of their life, which is going to the National Basketball Association. So how does he get them to care about this, right? Meaning the tournament, when they know that the next step and their dream that all of these kids have been dreaming about since they were 5 or 10 is 3 months away.
Well, it's a challenge, but he does it better than anybody. Their program and the way they run it is just different. It really is. You have so many one-and-dones coming in there, so many guys that's their expectation. They're only going to be there a year. And yet when they're there, John holds them to it. I mean, in terms of class, in terms of getting as many credits as they can when they're there, and obviously they're always welcome to go back and finish if they choose to do it. But, I mean, it's not like he just, runs a pro camp and looks the other way at all that stuff. He's very demanding. He tells them, this is what it takes. He's got great credibility because he coached in the NBA, because he's had a lot of players do exactly what these guys are doing.
Mm-hmm.
So he's exception. Everybody says, well, yeah, I'd win if I had their players. That's not true. John has done not a good job. He's done an incredible job, and he's done it at 3 places. That's what, some people have a tendency to forget a little bit. But, I mean, John did it at UMass. He did it at Memphis, too. A lot of people say, well, at Kentucky, anybody can win at Kentucky. Not true.
Although, and I agree with that last part, although to be fair, the 2 other spots that you mentioned there, PJ, it's not like they were fully clean. There was some smoke there. Let's call it for what it is.
PJ, BT knows this. Just tell him nobody's clean.
It's really funny. Kentucky's been to 57 NCAAs, Carolina 48, UCLA 48. I mean, that is mind-boggling. Like we write these numbers on top of our sheet so we can say, well, this is the 13th NCAA for this team.
Uh-huh.
These 3 are 48, 57, and 48. They got more championships in Elite Eights than other teams have appearances in the NCAA. It's mind-boggling, the history that's in this region.
No, I'm not disputing that. All right, so, Coach, final thing here, PJ Carlesimo. We don't have a lot of time. We've got to get to the update. But I wanted to run this by you real fast. I think, and I love the NBA drafts, and I take pride in knowing my NBA pretty well. I believe that this lottery, has a chance to be, historically good. And without trying to latch on to hyperbole, I firmly believe that. But you know as well as I do, there's a big difference between being an all-star and being a transcendent player. How many transcendent generational players do you think, I know it's a big projection because they're young, but how many do you think will eventually emerge from this year's draft?
I think there's at least 2, maybe another one. It's that good. This is kind of my fix for 3 weeks. Obviously, I spend most of my time with ESPN doing NBA the whole year, and then I get a 3-week fix. I get to do the conference tournament and the first 2 weeks of the NCAA for Westwood 1. So this is kind of when I catch up. I live in Seattle, so I saw Markelle Fultz all year. Got a chance to see a lot of Lonzo Ball and TJ Leaf. I mean, they are as legit as it gets. I did not see the young guy from NC State, who people the pro scouts tell me off the charts.
Yep.
How good he is. So, there's 5 or 6 guys that the NBA teams are bubbling over. Like they're saying, hey, whatever we are, where we end up, we're fine. And it gets funny because you don't have to make decisions when people in front of you make the decisions. You have who you want, but you try and move up. You try and do this. Lonzo Ball is the real deal.
Oh, yeah.
TJ Leaf doesn't get as much publicity, but wait till you see him. He can really play. Obviously, everybody knows about Aaron Fox and Malik Monk and Bam Adebayo. It's incredible, the freshmen that are in this game and are going to be impact players in the league. Every one of them, no. Transcendent, I think, yes, a couple. I think there's a couple that are really, really special.